Hi, I'm the Nilk, and what we're doing today is just talking about breaking down, showing you everything to do about my new track out with Unbeyond Anthologies. Now this track is called Why Is It Now That I'm Falling Apart? All lowercase. Yeah, it's very strange. Let's pop into the project file and actually sort this shit out so you can see everything to do with it. Now. Now. There are multiple things to pay attention to in this track. Largely that it is 9.5 to 10 minutes long. Now, this was purely incidental, right? The entire thing went through multiple versions to just try and figure out how the hell to make it work. I originally started this track with, I think, straight after Sleepover Volume 3, or one of them, which had a specific track that was like 17 minutes long. So I just wanted to get that vibe, which is largely ambient with, of course, several sections for drops or whatever, and really following a large kind of vocal story, which I will get into soon. Primarily, though, we start off just with an entire stack of just effect samples coming through here with just one click of a projector, if my bloody mouse will work properly, a click of a projector coming in with... What even is this? Okay, that's a stack. Okay. Just a random sequence that Faceplants has. Okay. It's just a stack of random effects that I've found just over the years, creating a very weird, tense, not necessarily digital, but kind of digital atmosphere. Transitioning here. Now, this is the funny part. It comes in with this little sound, which I have no idea even what started as. I don't know what that is, but really. Shifting it down, a little bit of vibrato. That's a lot of vibrato and, some normal EQ. But the entire, the final result of all this ambient sections came from this. Let's see, actually, because I didn't consolidate that. This is something I wrote, a 3-minute long, just ambient thing with a bunch of random sections for a theatre production, because I did a whole thing with my high school last year, and I stupidly did audio, and there was a whole thing with that, but that was the intro to it, the intro to the whole production. Now with that, I've cut it up into specific sections, which has just a lot of rumble. If I had this project file, I would try and find it and see what I did in there, because there's some interesting things with reverb, compressing reverb, especially on low impacts and then stretching everything. But if we look at the, yeah, you can see that there's just a whole lot of stuff in there that's just weirdly stereo and panning everywhere. The first iteration went on with this type of thing. More tonal. A really weird sub. Some more, sequences. Now, moving downwards, the effects are also very simple. There's just a random diatic noise thing that's being panned around, a little bit of saturation and some redux and everything, creating a bit more of a kind of atmosphere around that. There are a couple of impacts that probably interfere with the probably interfere with the low end a bit. But it's just creating more of the vibe. And of course, the glitches which happen, that just happen around the place. But one major thing I did want to go through with this project breakdown was the vocal processing. There's sections, but as we can see, there is a whole lot of stuff to go through here. This was also the first time I ever did at-home recording for anything, which I'm suffering from so much stage fright right now that you could probably imagine what it was like trying to write these lines with the idea of a story, with the idea of a new sonic world. But this is coming from one person's perspective, from a primary perspective. This is the protagonist, you, basically. But with this comes... It's Sonda. Just turning it down because I think it clipped a little bit. But a little bit of a... really just a chain of various saturation, compression, and everything. I think there is meant to be an amp in there. There is meant to be a dimension expander in there, but I've had so many issues updating this computer and updating everything with it that I just couldn't be bothered. The dimension expander is only for stereo. We can do stereo in so many, I want to say, cleaner ways. In fact, I think, but essentially it's just saturation, compression, and somewhat stereoizing it. But yeah, that just basically flatlines everything of the waveform. It's Sonda, but not quite. The thing with us. A little bit of EQ following that, and I don't even know why that utility is there for right now, but the interesting part in it, parallel processing. God damn, this made the whole thing great. The delay chain starts off, we'll just open up all of these and turn them off whilst soloing it. The delay chain. Because the thing with us. The thing driving this is the grain delay. The grain delay, though, if without the regular delay, wouldn't necessarily drag out for as long as I'd want it to. So there's a extra ping pong delay there that's helping it out a little bit, compressing it a hell of a lot with OTT. Then it would be lost in the mix of everything behind it. And then a little bit of a low cut there as well to just not interfere as much with the low end. The clean isn't necessarily clean. The clean layer doesn't feel is really just everything, all this processing plus a redux passing through, layering them both. Doesn't feel quite human. It's creepy. But this is the creepiest part of it. There is a frequency shifter layer, which has a lot of a just boost there, which it's entirely just weird. Layering it in doesn't feel quite... You can't necessarily hear it, but there is what I would think is aliasing up in the kind of top end with it. Doesn't feel quite human. It's so tense with the whole mix there. Doesn't feel quite human. It's still clear because of the clean aspect of it, but the delay there and the shifted doesn't feel quite human. Just makes it creepy, and I like it creepy. Moving forward from that, though, there is a transition. Right here, very close to it. Coming in with a very basic chord melody and pad layering thing. This is, I think, a tape piano from Labs. I froze it just because there's so much stuff going on in this project that it needs anything frozen that can be. Laid with another tape piano, which is just, there is some EQ automation, filter automation. Little bit of just, okay, fifth delay. Plus a very, I would assume, a very wide chorus, like a very in-depth chorus there, which it just makes sense. But these pads, I noticed a lot of Flume's recent and old stuff, he likes to, he tends to have little legato saw pads in the background with a little bit of vibrato on it, just continuously through. So that's kind of what I've done with these two layered. It's just in the back constantly with the melody and everything. It's even more creepy because everything is detuned. Now, this is just before that section, comes into the antagonist's lines, which are basically the exact same fucking processing as this shit, but lower, but pitched down. Let's see. Yeah, shifting, same 212, clean, almost the same. There is a yeah, it's just crushed a bit more. It's same stuff, man. And we go into the file, it's just pitched down 6. It sounds creepy, it's fine, it's with everything else. It just sounds right for the antagonist role. Now, a couple of laugh samples. Moving forward, of course, there is progression. The production intro thing, there is progression.
Just heard something.
It is a rise.
This isn't some stupid commentary, I swear. There's something here.
Moving forward to the build.
I swear.
Effect, of course. Tiny ride, tiny swells and everything. Into everything there, just...
There's something here.
This as well. Now, I don't know why I called this what I called... I don't know why I called the track Why Is It Now That I'm Falling Apart. I kind of do, because it's intending to be a prologue, should we say. But this section of the sample, it just works. Because why? I know it's a yai type thing, but why? Of course, with the little tweety. The part we're all waiting for is coming up. Even more emphasized by some really weird percussion. It is being filtered up, of course. And then some claps. Just a regular ass 808 clap, which is basically following everything. Now, this is an interesting section. I sometimes just do this certain thing. You can probably tell by the waveform in here, because I did it in the original project file for this intro thing. There is a thing you can do with a saturator or any sort of clipper. Basically, you just automate the drive with low end, with like a full spectrum section. It can be, it can sound weird with melodic stuff, but it can work well with almost anything. You just drive it into the clipper and it distorts like hell, but controlled. You may need to play with a little bit of the output of a saturator or the output of a clipper just to keep it level. I didn't necessarily do that here because it's already baked into this. But it just clips. Now, one thing I do a lot is this little thing. This thing is on the master. I call it the build-up rack. It's on my basic template for whenever I'm making anything. Essentially, automate it up before a drop or in a fake out like in this scenario. And it just kind of, as you can see, pulls up the EQ. It automates a bunch, like the reflector diffuse, the mix mainly of a reverb, and it takes down briefly the gain on the utility, which is barely in view, and the width. So it makes it so tiny just before the drop hits to where it opens back up again. Now, this sound. Just letting it play. Very simple. Very simple. Very basic groove. Kind of easy sound design. Decently basic drum groove. Like the drums, so simple. It's just the most complex thing here is literally just a clap that has a short, tiny reverb and a tiny bit of a delay. There is I probably shouldn't have pushed it this far, but the transient shaper has a hell of a lot of attack on it. And then the reverb rack is used in automation. The kick, actually, is one of my favorite kicks. I use basically in every track I've released in the last few months, and you're going to hear it a lot more. But it's just... It's an Eli kick. Like, I got a bunch of his drums, especially, because they're just so clean that I love to use them. This, I think, is a miles... It is a miles per hour clap that I've just fucked with. Hats, same shit. More Eli, more Miles, and then this random one that I found in a Discord server with a tiny bit of a delay there that filters out the highs on the delay. The interesting part now. How on earth did we make all these sounds? Now, the lead portion, it's very basic. That's just a filter on here as the pre-drop, but I'll turn all of this off. It is an experiment I did where I was just putting a really fast rhythmic LFO on the level. It just turned into a rhythm, but Ring Mod does the trick. I have no idea how. But it adds that little bit crushy texture on top. You can see that. You can hear that while I'm moving the frequency there. It basically stays static to the rhythm. A convolution reverb there on resonant hit with whatever settings those are, which kind of tames the low end a bit because convolution on a high mix, clipping it, making it a bit more just gritty. Another convolver with a phase input. I love these. Kilohertz convolver. I will live and die with this tool, especially with these, just the disperse. It's It's just a laser impulse response. You should be careful with putting feedback on it, as an example, because it just rings very harshly. What I live and die, using that is almost like a disperser. Almost. But it's convolution reverb, so you want to sound a bit more fancy, we'll use that. Then we have a disperser and a frequency shifter. Oh, there is a frequency shifter. That's it, mainly for those. That is automated frequency shifter. Shift. Just a bunch of fancy little automation points. The kind of extended decay of it. Which helps it kind of push through, especially to this. The fat rack, just transients, brother. Just transients. I'm trying to tame it a little with the final EQ. Now, layers. Laser. Random bass gun sample. That is literally just... just clipped and passed to give that really gritty mid-bassy thing. And this is basically the same sort of sample, but extremely time-stretched and processed with almost the same shit. Almost. Haas, live or die by Haas. Completely mono, right? Completely mono. Completely stereo. Fits the drop even more. The sub, just crushed. Just absolutely crushed. That is basically the same thing as this, same vibe. Okay, and there's some background elements here too. Just a little kitty cat. And then a wub. A preset wub that I've basically pulled from something I made and I made it into a bloody instrument rack. It's not an instrument rack there, but that's essentially all that takes for this drop. The only thing that really differs here is the addition of a little rhythmic thing. Of course, that with a little bit of automation in the send reverb and the send delay. It just adds a little bit more spice. A little bit more rhythmic spice, kind of picks up the pace a little, should we say. Hit a bit harder. What's this? I guess that's in there then. A very small, weird sustain is really driven by this vibrato, but as a whole thing, a very detuned sine and saw stacked on top of each other, crushed, shifted, and compressed. Not much else changes in the drums either, but the transition into the out of it. Is where that reverb rack mentioned before is used. Or not. Okay. The transition is just from high energy to much lower. This whole thing is just a texture warp that is... Let's just undo that for a second. It was breathing, but it sounds so much better with all the processing whilst it's stretched to oblivion. Now, this is slowly fading in there with, of course, those. Coming into another kind of conversation.
The more we move, the more we work, the more we travel, the more it...
I wasn't entirely sure how to execute this section. Essentially what I wanted this section to be is more of a, like, protagonist is sitting around a campfire talking to one of his friends that isn't really there, but the antagonist here, there'll definitely be more information on that I just don't know how much I'm allowed to say. But the antagonist here is there with the protagonist, but he doesn't know that. But no one knows that. They don't know that. I was just laughing, saying things to this guy, but he's not hearing, I guess.
I don't understand.
And the vocals drive up to this drop a lot more as well. So I'll let this play out for a second.
Is this here? Why is it trying to pull us away? Why is it trying to drive us insane?
This is very basic. There are 3 or 4 layers in this drop. The drums here. I wanted a more cinematic vibe to it. Multiple layers of pre-shifted sharks claps layered with the lead snare clap thing, which is also, I think, also a shark's clap with a bunch of processing on it. Hats. Much more earthy, I want to say. A stretched, like, Disciple hat with a kind of the Slate Digital hat. And then some Diatic again, hell yeah. But of course, with the Haas on it. The Haas is what gives it the width. How Haas works basically is it hard pans the channels, but delays one of them by whatever this value is, which creates a stereo thing. The Haas effect is a big thing in live sound, especially in a production standpoint. I just love it. It's just amazing. It puts stereo on something that is mono, which generally some reverbs don't. Some delays don't even have a ping pong option, so you can't do that. But stereoizing with delay is also really weird because it gives a more robotic digital effect to it. So Haas it's just the cleanest, in my opinion. But you can imagine how this could create issues with the bass. I've mostly monoed this. There is a white noise impulse response, which I generally use when making pads, but it's on a kick. That already is a very long kick. Yeah. And kicks, you always want the low end in it. This one, I just wanted to extend the low end to it, make it, again, more earthy. It is compressed. Light compression and then distorted a little bit over that. But it just creates this vibe and the claps. It just works on its own. We come to the main section. This is the second Neurobass I ever made. Let's wait till this all loads. Yeah. Very weird. Because we'll solo that, enable MIDI key map. Non-linear filter really makes this as well. It just crushes it. A lot of distortion, but the main thing is the FM into the sine through all of this distortion. And then there's some processing differently from the lower and upper portions of the frequency. But if we mute all of these, it's also very basic. But then there's the automation of Wumpy here. Which really builds it. And then you can LFO it and everything. So this is one of my go-to just neuro-based presets. It has really just worked with this. There is a very special thing happening here. If I can find it. Okay. There it is. Basically what's happening is in this little section, in low-high split of it, there is a compressor there that is only sidechaining the low section, the low portion of the frequency spectrum, which is why it sounds like this. Whenever the kick hits, whenever this hits, and whenever it is still, whenever the meters basically, whenever they are still up, the low end of this bass is sidechained, so the level is lower. But the high end of the neuro bass is always, since it's compressed so much, always at the same level, or is it a similar level? And then we have, of course, a couple of fills. Very old, weird resamples I made with a couple of other things, but most of that is, of course, in the preset there. It's just compressed as well out here. Convolution, white noise, impulse response, sine wave pluck. That's it. If you want to try it. And of course, it's sent to everything on some level. That I do not even know. It's just a labs drum kit. A labs drum preset that I've just arranged and stuffed with a lot. Basically, same sort of thing. There is the tenth section. There's the tenth section, and then the melody comes back in. The antagonist finishes. And that basically finishes at the 9-minute 50 point. So, yeah. But really, this whole track was a blast. Like, it took me a very long time to figure it out. A lot of the drum presence as well came through in the mastering. I have a very specific mastering workflow that I need to change. But yeah.
Insane.
This is a prologue. This is the start. So be ready. Trust me. There is a lot more music to come. I'm planning a hell of a lot of stuff. I'm planning a hell of a lot of work. Because if you like me, if you like my music, if you like the direction of where I am taking this project, you better stick around. Because but in terms of story, in terms of sonic world, this is where it is going. Thank you for sticking around for so long. I've been meaning to try to do a bunch of breakdowns. If you want me to do breakdowns of any tracks in the future, let me know. If you want me to do breakdowns of maybe some of my older tracks, if I can find the project files, I'm very happy to. Just let me know down below. Yeah. Thank you for sticking around and enjoy. Go stream the song. Go stream it. It's out on Unbeyond Anthologies as of now. Thank you. Goodbye.